Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and an Interview. I'm Jacqueline Pena, and today I have the honor of being with Dr. Esther Malm again. She was a speaker at our webinar series on burnout, and it was really important to bring her back for this candid conversation for the podcast on burnout, because I think it's a subject that affects all of us. It doesn't matter where we're from, who we are, what we do. We can all learn something about burnout and avoiding burnout. So today's guest is going to talk a little bit about that, teach us a couple of tricks, and really give us some tools to help us if we ever burn out, or we're in that stage of burning out, or we have burned out already and we're trying to pull out. So with that, welcome, Dr. Esther Malm. I'm going to turn it over to you.
It's good to talk to you again and to hang out with you with coffee. Pretty much I am drinking tea. So there we go.
So you're doing work in this area, and I thought you could just let us know what kind of work you actually do that revolve around these conversations, and then we can jump right into the subject of burnout.
So I am privileged to be a professor of psychology. I board up primarily in developmental and as well as clinical, right? And I'm licensed in Ghana as a clinical psychologist, and in the US as a licensed marriage and family therapist. My work overall enables me to teach, to do research, and then to practice as well. So my research interests are pretty much intertwined, but oftentimes you might see them in different pockets. For example, parenting, family-related issues, functioning, overall well-being. So I can give it that broad umbrella, overall well-being. And I think that burnout and stress and taking care of ourselves all fall under well-being. All right. So beyond these titles and other things, I describe myself as an observer of myself. I use myself as a case study a lot. It's not always pleasant what I see, but I use myself as a case study a lot. I'm an observer of people, my surroundings, and the world at large. As such, I ask a lot of questions about health, about life, meaning of life, well-being, and things like that. So that broadly captures my where I come from when I think about issues like stress, burnout, self-care. And that for me has been a big one as well in recent years, probably because of the COVID and getting back, the stress and strain that came with that, isolation, the impact it had on people's overall well-being. And just the busyness of life. I think COVID also had opened our eyes and our minds to how busy we can be. So that has been, these are part of the things that have influenced my continued interest in pay attention to the issue of stress and burnout.
You said a couple of key words: stress, burnout, self-care. I think we just need to jump in there and ask that foundational question. What is burnout? We keep hearing it so much more, especially after COVID. What exactly is it?
When I think of the word burnout, another word that comes to me usually is exhaustion. And I think of exhaustion, not in just the word, just the feeling with it, just exhausted. Right. But exhaustion is all. And then another word there is fatigue. And I first heard that even as a health diagnosis when I was in grad school. I think that story may come up later on, fatigue. But when I think about these burnout, fatigue, exhaustion, the other piece that comes to me is stress. So let me start first with what stress is, and then I'll link it to burnout, because people ask that question a lot. What's the difference between the two? All right. So when we are stressed out, typically it's our mind and our body's response to a stressor. And typically that's a threat. The threat could be an event, it could be a person, it could be a situation. And these threats could be immediate, short-term, put that way, short-term, like an accident happened, or long-term, like caregiving for a long period of time, or being in a state that you don't feel like you can get out of it, and it drains you, right? So typically when we are stressed out, our body, when we are faced with a stressor, our body alerts us, hey, something's up, and then also provides or prepares the body to fight or to flee. Ultimately, our body always wants to protect us, right? It will always wants us to survive. So when the stressor is present, our body gets into action with all the various parts, from the top of our heads to the toes of our feet. Every part plays a role to either get ready to fight. So blood flows to the heart, pretty much to the head and also to the extremities. So if you're going to run, you better run. If you're going to fight, you're ready to fight, right? So during that time, you don't even feel hungry because that's not important. Now, when the stressor is no longer a threat, our body calms down. Right, calms down, relaxes. That's when we start feeling hungry. I bet some of you have gone through that before, you, the audience. But that ability for our body to calm down also does something else. It helps us replenish. So we eat, we sleep, we relax, we decide to go hang out with a friend, talk to someone for social support. All those things are ways our body restores the energy that was spent in the crisis, in quotes, in the crisis moment. Does that make sense? Now, every one of us is different, and this process is similar for all of us, but it's unique to each and every one of us because we are different. Now, what then is burnout? Burnout is what I would say prolonged stress, which has not been has not been attended to, or the body has not been able to replenish the store over time. All right. So there's that prolonged stress, so the mind and body's response, and there hasn't been enough time or continued time to replenish the energy store. All right. And so that ends up impacting us in every area of our lives. Physically, we are worn out. Emotionally, we are worn out. Mentally, we are worn out because in many ways we are not able to maybe slow down, or the threat is there for so long, we are not able to replenish it. And the threat may not just be one, it could be multiple things going on at the same time. It's like it never ends and it just keeps going on and on. So that's how I define it. It's prolonged stress that has not been attended to, or our body has not been able to make the time to restore the energy that has been spent staying alive or surviving and defending oneself.
Wow. This, as you were talking about stress, I was thinking, okay, this makes sense. And at the end of the day, I get hungry, and then I can breathe, and then I go to sleep, and there are better ways to handle a day-to-day stress. But when you talk about burnout and prolonged stress, but also multiple stressors, I think that's the key. Even with myself, I'm looking work and family,
absolutely,
and caregiving, and this and that,
plus traffic and all the craziness with that, and it just keeps going on and on and on. You don't feel like you can get out of it.
Yeah, it just keeps going. And then you realize you're on go mode, and you haven't stopped in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month. When was the last time you stopped? This is what I ask myself. When is the last time I stopped and just watched a movie, read a book?
Yeah.
Without looking at a to-do list, without answering emails, without putting out another fire.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's very easy to lose track of the amount of time and the stressors and how much we are just in that go mode for so long.
Yep. And I think we get to a point where it's weird when we slow down.
Yes.
It's weird when we sit down and watch a movie. You're like, oh, what am I not doing? Am I doing something wrong? What am I supposed to be doing? Your body needs to relax. It's your body that's taking care of you. So if it's destroyed, all those things you are doing, how would you be able to keep doing it? It just gets foreign because we just keep going and going and going, and that's not healthy.
Very interesting. So when I've been in these stages, in these prolonged stress moments, these burnout stages, and I try to slow down, I have a very difficult reaction. I'm thinking even in my 20s, you're in school, you're working full time, you're doing all these other things, and then all of a sudden grades are in, there are no classes, and it's December 26th, and you're like, oop, and then all of a sudden there's this crash, and it almost feels like this huge wave of depression that
Yes.
comes in because you've been in go, go, go for 3 or 4 months, and now everything's just stopped.
Yeah. And sometimes people get sick after that long period of time. And honestly, over the years, I've called that a blessing in disguise because it forces us to lay down. It forces the body to be still. Like you're so tired, you can't move around, or you have to just rest, stay in bed. I find that honestly to be probably one of the body's ways. I mean, there are various scientific reasons there may be, but for one, the immune system has been compromised. And so simple things like common cold will get you. And when it does, it gets you real bad. Right. It's not because you are not a healthy person per se, but on the flip side, yeah, you haven't been because you've just been go, go, go. Your body says, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And it shuts down. So in a way, it's a good thing. So for people who get scared, I invite you to slow down, embrace it, and enjoy the rest. Guess what? Your bosses will not actually worry will not complain because you're sick. But if you were saying you are taking a day off, maybe they may raise their brows or you may feel uncomfortable, but you're not feeling well. Good. Sleep, rest, calm down, do some things, your self-care things you like to do as a way to. But I think that's what happens when we go, go, go. The stress levels are high. Our body is expending energy. We have not made the time to restore it. So when the body finds the time, oh, exam is done. Woo, it's like it takes all the time that you've taken away from it to restore. And sometimes it takes much longer than you would want. And that's the annoying part of it because it takes much longer for restoration or feeling better that you would have wanted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a complicated cycle. And then for some of us, I get easily bored. I need to always be challenged. And this happens career-wise, right? I can be in one position, but after a few years, I need another challenge. I need a new project or promotion. And then that comes with more stress. And so it's not about deal with the stressor now and then recover. I think it's about lifestyle changes and really making
Absolutely.
sure that self-care is embedded there.
Absolutely. Because I even think that sometimes, yes, when we take care of ourselves, we are naturally more creative. We are naturally more excited to do things, and we even do better at the things. In fact, one of the signs of burnout is demotivation. One of the major signs of burnout is demotivation. But unfortunately, some people would rather go find a new job to get motivated without realizing that that's not the solution. The solution is slowing down to take care of yourself so that you can be remotivated either in what you're doing or to move forward anyways. But they have not rested. Then they get into a new job, new something. It may come with money that might be exciting, but their work toll can even be higher. So sometimes we try to replace what we really need to do. We cover that up with other things, and then the cycle just keeps going on and on and on until the body can't take it anymore. Either it crashes or it develops other diseases or illnesses as a result of all these other things. And then guess what? The money we got from the new job, we are now going to use it to go to the hospital. It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you just described a little part of my life when you talked about, you lose your motivation, you're not as passionate, so you look for a different job instead of is it burnout? And I think part of it is not understanding burnout and not understanding the self-care that we have to integrate into our daily lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think our society just also influences that in a way. We are a society that just keeps moving, keeps going. We don't rest. We don't sleep. Every few months, there's a new phone. There's always some level of productivity. I don't know what do you call that? Like performance evaluation. There's nothing wrong with performance. I think that we need to be excellent at what we do. And I value that. But where the goal is, you are trying to outrun somebody else all the time, and sometimes even yourself. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But where the goal is always to do that without slowing down to take care of ourselves, that ends up being a problem. I think our culture has swallowed that so much. We can't see it anymore. It's just part of who we are. And probably also why when people try to slow down, they feel guilty and feel like they are lazy, they are not being productive, but yet they are dying inside. You know, so being able to recognize, like you rightly said, being able to recognize where one is going to be important. And we all have to do that soul searching. That's definitely step one, if you ask me. Soul searching, who am I and where am I now? What are the stressors in my life? Do I feel exhausted? Do I feel depleted? Do I feel exhausted? And you when you are burnt out, you see it in all areas of your life: emotionally, mentally, physically, psychologically. I would even say relationally. You are way more snappy, probably likely to be short-tempered, more irritable. You sometimes physically, or you could also have all these you start having all these health problems as a result of all these prolonged stress. Some people have alopecia, tummy problems, they're not able to eat well. Some people can feel the cortisol in their body. I do. And I'm aware, I feel it. I know that I am stressed, and then I can tell when it's for a long period of time. You know, so there are all these signs, and I call them the alarm bells. The alarm bells telling us, hey, pay attention to your body, pay attention to your mind, pay attention to your emotions, what's going on, work on reducing the stress. But guess what we do? We rather go to the hospital or we'll go get pills. Again, we are masking the real issue by all these other things. And then the tradition goes on, it just keeps on and on and on.
Wow. Very, very enlightening. And you're right. I mean, maybe it's inflammation, maybe there's gastritis, maybe there's something else.
Yes.
There's symptoms, and we treat the symptoms, but we don't look at the true cause. And I find that's a very common thing for many of us to do, treat the symptoms in our medical system here in the US. So you're pinpointing some things that are going to answer the next few questions. One of them is, how do you know if you're heading into burnout or you've burned out? And you've talked about a few symptoms, but if I'm home and I'm like, am I burning out? Am I heading in that direction? How would I know? What would I look for? What signs? What would I ask myself? Aside from some of the ones you share, like the health issues and the symptoms that come out of that.
So like you said rightly, yes, there are those physical symptoms, right? The continuous migraines, the headaches, the physical, your body changes, right? Then there's the emotional ones. You realize you're constantly moody. You're snapping at your kids a lot more than you do. In fact, you feel guilty afterwards, but you just couldn't take it. The slightest thing, you're snapping. You notice you're doing this a lot with people close to you, and they don't deserve it, right? And sometimes you're even very critical about yourself. You're just irritated all the time. You're like, what's going on with me? Is it my age or whatever, you know? Then there's the motivation piece. That's a big one. Our mental health is also very much linked to our levels of creativity, what we love to do and all that. If you notice, you start losing interest in the basic things you loved to do. That's a sign that, hey, what's going on with you, right? And then also, I think that one of the ways to find out whether you're burnout or not is to learn to pay attention to yourself, like your body. Learn to pay attention to who you are. We are too fast-paced. Some of us don't even remember the last time we heard our heart beat. You know, let's just learn to do that. Learn to slow down, sit down, just sit, and then be quiet. Hear, use all your senses to feel and hear things around you, right? This is something you can do as a practice. Maybe when you wake up in the morning, instead of rushing off, use just 5 minutes, pause, listen to whether it's the fan, if your window is open, you can hear the birds, just listen. right? And then do the same for your body, from your head all the way to your toes. Move them, feel them. Some people have not felt their body in a long time, right? When we can learn to slow down that way, we will be able to notice various activities going on in our bodies. We might notice the tension in the back of our upper back, or the swelling on the big toe, or the tingling things going on. Typically, when we feel those things, we feel like, oh, I'm sick, I'm in trouble, I have to go to the hospital. Not necessarily. Just to get attuned with your body. If you could do that, I think it's going to help to let you know when you are stressed. So get to know that, get to know your body, or slow down to pay attention. And then number two, I would say find out for yourself how you know when you are stressed. It manifests differently. I believe physiologically, most of us show it. The question is whether we know that or not. So for me, it's my upper back. When it gets very tense and painful, I literally will have to lay on the floor with my back down. And then I do my check-in. Okay, what's going on? Why is this? What's going on? What happened today? Sometimes it's not even the immediate thing. Something happened last night, or I overheard something, and it's been going on at the back of my mind for a long time, and now I'm stressed. It has nothing to do with what I'm immediately working on. So learning to notice it, then you respond to it. Some people, it's sweaty palms, or they start grinding their teeth at night. They notice that. All right. For some, it's the restless legs. Yes, it is a syndrome, but again, it could be a trigger for something. Rather than going to take medication for that, listen to your body. Find out what is your stress? What are the signs of stress for you? When you can recognize it physiologically, because it's like a body check, then you can also pay attention to emotionally how you're feeling, mentally how you're reacting, right? Those, I think, are basic, free, easy ways we can check in to find out how stressed we are. And then you can now think about the replenishing, because if you don't know that you are stressed, you don't even realize that you are not making time to restore your energy that's lost. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. It's funny because as you were talking at the beginning of this part, I'm thinking I drink my coffee, and lately I've been drinking my morning coffee while working. Like literally, I get out of bed, grab a cup of coffee, go straight to the computer. I have a nice backyard with a table and some chairs. Why aren't I grabbing that cup of coffee and just sitting in the back for 5 minutes? And I can hear the birds chirping right now as we're
Right,
interviewing.
right. And that's a very good, so true. Many people have all these resources. They paid big money for it, but it's sitting there from bed to bathroom to work. That cycle over and over again. It's only when we are sick that we go sit outside. Can you think about it? Isn't that strange and warped in many ways, right? But yes, if we could just slow down, whatever that means. We are all different. Our situations are different. But even in the car, you could get into your car, sit for 5 minutes, roll down the glass if it's fresh air. If it's a polluted area, that's different. But sit, just close your eyes if you have to, right? And then just check in, breathe. We don't breathe. Just breathe for 5 minutes. If you have to use a timer, use it, right? Breathe. You have no idea how that's going to calm your system, get you together to start the day.
Very powerful. And as we're talking, I'm also thinking for any of you listeners like me, I work remotely. I went remote before COVID. So when COVID hit, I already had a remote work routine. But for many of us, it's hard because literally I can just get out of bed, maybe take my pajamas off, because before I used to be more intentional about putting on jeans and a shirt and changing the color of my flip-flops for each day. But you roll out of bed, you grab the cup of coffee, and you can go straight to work if you're remote. I think the remote and hybrid life makes it tricky for us to really separate ourselves from some of our stressors because we're living in it. Also, I work like a split schedule. And I think that that's also been challenging. I don't know if anyone else listening has that situation where I might work a 2 or 3 hour chunk, and then I'll do family stuff that includes family stressors for 2 or 3 hours, then back to work, then something personal, then work 2 more hours. And it's created a very interesting lifestyle that allows me to take care of what I needed to take care of. That's why I had to go in the remote direction.
Yeah.
But it creates more opportunities for more stressors to stay throughout the day and the weeks, fewer opportunities for me to take the time out. So I think this situation I put myself in, by the way, Esther, I think this life schedule that I've created can easily be easier to fall victim to multiple stressors all the time without the self-care. So
absolutely
look at.
Yes, I think that's important when I find myself doing that too. And I noticed how exhausted I'll be at the end of the day. I work with clients in the morning. I go to do long work. And then from there, I go somewhere else to do stuff. By the time I get home, I'm so worn out. But one thing I noticed, well, at the beginning, it was fun because I felt like I was able to juggle multiple things that I loved to do in a day. But with time, I noticed how much it was wearing me down because I was not being as productive in one place because I was just moving from one place to the other, right? And then I'd have so much left undone. Then I have to come the next day and then add on to that. It's just like with emails. Actually noticed that I used to stay long at my primary work, and so I don't like emails. I don't like unread emails. I want to get to zero, and I've been able to achieve that for a long period of time. And then I changed my schedule where in the evenings I do see clients, and I'd have 40 emails left. Then the next day, and so it got to a point I was like, "What's going on? I was actually even being stressed about that. One, I was tired. Two, being stressed about the fact that I was not meeting my goals. It took me a while before I realized it's because you don't spend the rest of the day working on your emails as before. You're doing something else with the time. Yeah. So I had to give myself permission to recognize that it's okay. It is okay. You can't do it all. And you can't finish this. So maybe focus on the primary things first and just let the rest be till you get to it, right? So I had to give permission to myself, and that reduced my stress relating to that. But it also made me realize how we can get into that cycle of doing multiple things, which at the end of the day traps us back into this never-ending space of just work, and not restoring. And I think you're right. Many of us have something like that going on. If it's not with children, it's with work, it's with extracurricular activities, community activities. There's so much of that going on. It'll be a good thing for us to outline all these. What are all the things you're doing? Right? What are all the activities you are part of? You can split it by family, work, maybe the free things you do, and then the paid things you do. If you're able to separate them that way, then you need to ask yourself, what are your value systems? What do you value more? If you value your family more, then you want to find out, how can I rearrange my life or cut some things out or pause some things so that I can have time for me, which gives, when you're able to take care of yourself, you can take care of others or help others. But when you're not able to take care of yourself, it's just like the airplane advice, right? Put the mask on you before you do for the other one. If we're not able to take care of ourselves, it's going to show, it's going to spill into our loved ones and the things we actually love to do, because we're just not emotionally available. And that's because there's been no restoration of what has been spent.
That's beautifully said. It's this debits and credit system. I'm one of those. I have a hard time doing what you said, which is it's okay. It's okay not to get your emails to zero, your unread emails to zero. It's okay not to get this done. And I think a lot of us struggle. I know I struggle with that, where I want to get it all done, and I have the to-do list divided by category. and one of the hardest things I had to learn over the years is to give myself permission to be okay with not accomplishing certain things and moving them around to other places and maybe delegating certain things if you can do that, because a lot of times we can't. But that's difficult to give yourself that permission and that's to let it go. Let it go. Just can't do it.
Yeah. And you're right, Jackie. I think that's a big issue that we live with every day, giving ourselves permission to not do all of these things. So giving ourselves permission to say, you handle this. We need to learn to delegate certain things. And again, it comes back to our priorities. We need to figure out what our priorities are, because there are some people who are struggling emotionally and are being drained because of misplaced priorities.
Yes.
Right. We've misplaced our priority. We think we need to be doing all of this. Do you need to do it now? Can you wait so you can handle what is more present for you? A lot of relationships are suffering because we've misplaced priorities. We spend a lot more time at work or with people and other things, yet what matters more is lacking. And then it causes its own rift, which stresses us out big time. Right. And now we are stressed out because our relationship's not working. And sometimes we try to channel it back into the very pit that has trapped you, work, rather than reducing that and turning in towards your family, your relationships to restore. So it can be very interesting how these cycles keep going. But like I said before, if we can learn to slow down, because I really think that's one of the ways that's the roadmap to reducing burnout in our lives. Slow down and review your life. Figure out what your value systems are. What do you want in this season? Life is in seasons. We can't do everything now, but we need to do what is essential now in preparation for the next season. If we miss this season, we probably have to wait for another season or we don't get it back. So making the best of the season you are in, but I can tell you your season. It's yours. You need to figure that for yourself. And I think that's where maybe self-care comes in, because you mentioned that earlier on about self-care. So maybe if it's okay, I can just touch base on self-care specifically.
That's actually my next question, because if we're burning out, we're in burnout.
Yeah.
How do we practice self-care and pull
exactly
ourselves out?
Awesome. Great minds think alike. I think self-care is in itself in the name, self-care. And I think that is caring for self by self. In other words, I can't care for you. I can't take care of you. I probably can give you advice, but if you don't do it, it's just an advice, right? So being able to care for ourselves, no one can do it for you than you. Your spouse can care for you. And I think that's, someday we'll talk about healthy marriage, healthy relationship pieces, because I think sometimes we think the partner has to care for us before we are okay or before we are happy. No, you've got to take care of yourself. And then when you are healthy, you can, and the other partner is also healthy, then when you connect, the relationship is rich and healthy, right? So we need to take care of ourselves, and I think that we oftentimes outsource our self-care to others. I like that's how I kind of phrase it. We try to outsource it to other people. We outsource it to TV and all the reality shows and all the interesting things that go on there. Some of us outsource it to alcohol and other habits. Where we just drown ourselves. We don't want to think about it. So whatever will take us off that, we do that. We outsource our self-care to other activities that kind of we enjoy in the moment, but then at the end of the day, you're back to square one, or you're even worse than you were before. Right. So we need to learn to confront. We need to learn to confront ourselves again and ask, what is going on? It comes back to the same thing I said before. Slow down. Look at you in the mirror, if that's what it would take. Some of us don't like to do that because we know what we see is ugly. What we see is not fun. But we've got to confront that to work through it. Right? What do we need to relax? What do we need to replenish the lost energy? energy resources in our lives. It might actually mean taking an extra day of work. Would it reduce your salary for the month? Yes, but guess what? You would be better, healthier, so that the next month you may not take a day off, you may take half a day off, so that you can rest, you can relax, you can take care of you. In 3 months' time, you may not need it anymore. But if you refuse to take that day off this month, you might need to take an extra day off the next month. And if you stayed on the money you earned, you might end up going to ER. It doesn't make sense. So we need to pay attention and ask ourselves, what do we need? If we don't need noise, we don't need to go for all the parties or whatever, we could just excuse ourselves and not go. If we need to have cool breeze, well, either you open your windows and not use your air conditioning, or if it's too hot, be intentional. We have to be intentional. And some of the intentional things we do not cost us money. We don't need to go to the bougie beaches to relax, right? It could be really in your backyard. It really could be in your backyard, right? It could be a walk. It could be a stroll. It could be in your parents' neighborhood. You can go for a few days somewhere if you think that's what you need, or you could just stay right in your bed. For all you know, your bed hasn't seen you in a long time. So we'd be very happy to have you back. You know, we need to be intentional and figure out what we need and then do that. It does not need to be expensive. It really doesn't need to be expensive.
That's great advice. Two things you said. One, I love this concept, not that I love the concept of doing it, but understanding this concept of outsourcing. I think a lot of us can sometimes not realize we're outsourcing our self-care, and those things we're outsourcing to are not making us better, are not helping us avoid burnout. But then this other piece about giving us this permission. I mean, I feel like I'm about to give myself permission to not really take on any major projects for 2 months this summer. I think 2 months of light work and spending time with my nieces and doing that kind of work, but giving myself permission to do that, and then curtailing my expenses, making sure that again, the beach day, all I have to pay is parking. Really, I grab my towel, my food, my bottle of water, my book. I'm good. I'm all set there. So I spending more time reading those books. My to be read list is just getting longer and longer, and I have a stack of books over there that I'm trying to get to, and I don't. And how do we give ourselves that time and then develop better patterns so that we're giving ourselves that time throughout the week, not just letting all the stressors mount up and then we just need a month off. But how do we incorporate that as part of our day to day? Those are tough things. I still struggle with a lot of that.
That's so true. And it might also mean that we need to go counterculture. Because like I said, our society influences us a lot. There's the culture of summer, it's summertime, go travel somewhere with the kids or with somebody, you know. So we are working so hard, stressed out. We're not able to play because you need to save that extra money. Well, that is if that's our behavior, because some people just put it on a credit card, right? But all those things, maybe we should say, yeah, I want to be able to spend time with the kids or with somebody else, but it does not need to be that expensive. We have to go counterculture on some of these things. We've got to cut certain things down. We've got to know our limits, know what you've got. Again, I've talked about seasons. This is the season of life you are in. It doesn't mean this is where you'll be forever. So if the others are going to the Disney World and all those things because the kids are 4, you can't afford it. So what? Stay, figure something out in your community, do together. Even if it means staying at home, do it. Because again, it's the meaningfulness of these things that nourish the children and also that nourish our hearts. It's not the money we spend. In fact, some people be spending money and are biting their tongue because they don't have the money. But they're doing it anyway, like keeping up appearances. It's not necessary. But we've got to choose to make that decision not to follow the crowd, live within our means, make do with what we've got so that we are not overly stressed or choosing to bring on more stress and don't even have the time to breathe. You know, we've got to make those choices. And it may not look like everybody else's. So what? Who cares? at the end of the day, who really cares? So those are some things, and it's a very important point you raised about all these various things that come in, and we definitely need to ask ourselves, what do we want in this world? What really do we want? If we can figure that out, then we work towards living within that. And I always say it's not the end of the world. If you being in this space doesn't mean you're going to be here forever. Maybe this is all you can afford for now. Good. Live within it, enjoy it. And then you work towards the next goal. Once you get there, you live within it, and don't try to get there by a credit card and then now walk back it and pay it off. It's just stressful because life is not going to wait for you to finish paying that before something else comes up. And then the cycle just keeps going on and on and on. We don't need that. So we have to choose to also go counterculture with how we live and do life.
I love that concept, going counterculture, one that I haven't talked about enough, I think. And I think it's a great point to make as a strategy. And it's interesting, you talked about financial health, right, in some way. And I look at holistic health as including social,
absolutely,
physical, emotional,
absolutely,
mental, financial as well.
Absolutely. I just want to give a quick tip about families, because sometimes parents will say, well, I'm doing all of these things because of the children. And rightly so. But sometimes I ask myself, is it really because of the kids, or is my ego and my keeping up appearances? I want the kids to go here because their friends are going. Is it really about the kids? Is it about you? Right? We need to figure that for ourselves, right? Number one. Number two, kids don't care how much money you make or work. I know that because obviously I've been a kid before. There are things I wanted that my parents may have thought otherwise, and I don't hold it against them. They were doing the best they could, right? But we need to ask ourselves what matters more to the kids. I feel like for COVID, some parents were not happy with COVID because the kids were always around. But I dare say if we ever could interview our children, almost 90% or more were thrilled that COVID happened so they could see their parents. They don't see their parents. The kids, they are dropped off in school. They don't know their parents. And I'm sure some kids struggled also to live with their parents at home because they had not seen that part of their parents because they're always in school. But a lot of kids were glad to be home so they could hang out with their mom or dad or family caregivers, whoever. It's that is what makes, that's what the kids are going to remember. Time with mom and dad, time with aunt, uncles, grandparents, caregivers. That's what matters to the kids. And that's why I said you don't have to go to Disney World to have a meaningful experience for the children. I think that it is part of the label. Oh yeah, we went to Disney World. So what? You spent all that money and you came back fighting with your spouse or working 3 jobs to make sure that you did not get kicked out of your house. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, right? So you can have a great, in quotes, Disney World, and I'm not bashing Disney World, so forgive me if the audience, I'm just using that as an example. But you can have something like that at home. Sometimes it's just sitting down on the carpet with all the kids huddled around you. And maybe you're talking about the day or sharing stories or laughing over some things. That's what the kids are going to remember, number one. Number two, that's what's going to build their own self, broadly, self-esteem, self-worth. You're also modeling behavior for them, that you don't have to go out somewhere all the time to be connected. You can be connected being together in one place. It's doable. You don't need all that money. And then the final thing I want to say there is that I think that sometimes it's important to talk to the kids about you as a family. What are your family goals? What are your family values? What are your family belief systems, right? So your kids learn very early that we don't always need to buy this. We don't always need to go here to be a happy family. Because most of the time, we as parents are interested in working to get all this money so we can take these kids here, take them here, like their friends went. But they need to realize that in our home, We value each other. We value relationships. And relationship is not necessarily built on going places. We can have fun at home, and it's going to cost us not much for that to happen. That in itself would reduce your burnout. And the stress. And just sitting with the kids, guess what's happening too? You're replenishing the resources you've lost, again, free, but with the people that matter to you. If we can slow down and think through all of these things, I really think that we'll be able to reduce the levels of burnout we have. Number one. Two, increase our storage of all the necessary resources, the emotional resources, physical, mental, all the relational intimacy. We can rebuild that or fill the tank. I call it the love tank, to fill that tank so that we wake up every day energized for the world, or energized to face the world.
Wow. No, that's great advice. And it's a great point. In terms of advice, we need to stop and think what's important to us, do an analysis, just like when we go to the doctor, what are the stressors and what strategies, what can I do to reduce that? Am I working too much to do something that doesn't really make sense? And instead I can work less and spend more time at home doing this. What are the things that are important to you? What are the priorities? What are you doing that are not priorities that you can take off the plate that are creating these stressors or are the stressors themselves? And then just using this as a strategy. I think it's a good personal check-in.
I think so too. And we haven't done it for so long that I think sometimes we think it's weird to do it. But we really need to. We really need to change our mindset around life and do what works best for us and not what the world tells us to do.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So we've gotten into the final segment of this interview, which is advice, and you've been giving us great advice. What other advice do you have for us to if we're burning out or to avoid burnout? And I'm curious about advice also for loved ones who might see someone who sees a loved one burning out, what we can do. And in the workplace, if we're a colleague or a supervisor, what can we do if we see one of our team members burning out? So I know I spread it across different groups, but what other advice do you have for any of these situations? The person burning out, the person who sees a loved one burning out, or the colleague or supervisor who sees a team member burning out?
Okay, good questions. So I would say in the first place, we need to pay attention to ourselves so that when we are heading in that direction or we're experiencing burnout, we can name it. We can name what's going on for us, right? To name the feeling you're having, name the sensation you're having, name the observation of whether it's a motivation, your motivation levels have dropped, or whether you notice you're highly irritable, whatever it is. And then also exhausted, like the exhaustion, that emotional exhaustion is real. Or you just physically feel tired. After 3 steps, you're tired. You should be able to name that. Most of the time we don't, right? So be able to learn about who you are, learn about how you identify stress, so that when you are heading towards it, you can see it and name it. Number one, name it. Do not keep it to yourself. All right. You are more likely to focus on doing something about it when you name it than if you don't. All right. Now, when it comes to our loved ones, we can only see our loved ones or we can typically notice it when we recognize ours. And that's why it's important to pay attention to ourselves. Self-care. You've got to care for you, then you can be able to care for others, right? So you can ask questions like, and this is a question we should always be asking ourselves. Hey, I can see you are tired and stressed out. How are you taking care of yourself, right? Or how are you replenishing yourself? How are you restoring the energy you spent? How are you taking care of yourself? Right? That could be a neat question to ask. And then also ask what they need. What do you need? What do you need? What can I take off your plate, or what needs to be taken off your plate so that you feel much better? So for example, if you're caregiving for a long period of time, you have siblings, but you're the only one doing it. Why are you the only one doing it? Is it because are the siblings involved, or are you mama or dada who does everything and does not ask for help? Is it that you did not ask for help, or you did not, you don't like receiving help? You get me? So be able to recognize what you need can help us, can help your friend, or can help whoever be able to figure out resolutions around that. All right. So, and then also, what can you do to reduce the cumulative stress on that individual? If you feel like you have insight, sure. Sometimes you might have to help them talk to someone else, because if you are like me, sometimes I need to hear from someone else, the ones closer to me, before I get it, right? So if that's what's needed, again, if you are passionate about looking out for the person, if you have to do that, do that. Now, when it comes to colleagues and supervisors, on the people on that level working with their juniors or team members, I think it's important for us to be role models, right? So if you can recognize yours and name it, talk about it. People are afraid to talk about some of these things, but it's important to talk about it, because once you talk about it, you'll be amazed at how a lot of people around you are having similar experiences. Is that why there's low productivity? Is that why there's nonchalance in the office? But you don't know why. You think it's because they are not working harder, or they think it's because you are too bossy. But probably it's because there are some levels of stress going on, and it may have nothing to do with the workplace. Somebody's marriage is struggling. Somebody's mom is in the hospital. Somebody's child is in ICU, but they come to work and nobody knows that the person is going through this, right? So when, as leaders, we are able to name some of these things, I think that our colleagues and team members feel comfortable to deal with the elephant in the room. Right. And I believe when we do that, it doesn't mean that the people are going to take their work less seriously. If anything, I really believe productivity will go up, because we feel free to talk about our stressors, and likely to also get resources to deal with what can be dealt with. If we are unable to deal with it, at least just talking about it gives you a sense of support. When you are supported, gives you a sense of support. That in itself eases that burden that we can have, right? So becoming a role model, sometimes it's important to consider changing what can be changed in your team. So if, for example, you all work till 7, and it really taking a toll on your team members. Some of them have little kids. They need to be home. Some of them just got recently married. They need to be home, right? Change how that works out. If it means work ending early, or they can go home at a certain time, or just to change whatever needs to be changed. Sometimes in seasons, it doesn't have to be permanent, just to accommodate one another, because you're a team. So we need to look out for one another, right? Yeah. So where as a boss or as a leader, you can do that for your team. I invite you to really think about it. It doesn't make you weird. It doesn't, sometimes we love our status quo. So that, but sometimes we can just change some of these things. And that brings a lot of respect often to the leaders, because your team realizes you care about them. You're looking out for them, right? So guess what? You are more likely to have retention of your team members than rather they leaving because they're exhausted and try to find another job, which worsens their own stuff. But if this accommodation was provided, they probably would have been even more excellent at their work. So these are things that I think we can all pay attention to and consider as ways to help reduce burnout or catch signs of it before it gets to a point that can be more damaging.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I think burnout is it can be, anyone can suffer from it everywhere. It's part of our lives. And I think whether we're the ones burning out, or we're the loved one seeing someone burning out, or we're the colleague, just having these tips so that we can help each other, because we're in this together. Sometimes we need alone time to be able to self-care, but we're in this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been a wonderful conversation. I know this sounds terrible when we're talking about self-care and burnout. I just gave myself this nice homework assignment for the plane. I have such a long plane ride coming up, but what a time for me to be forced to sit for 11 hours and reflect and really analyze what's important to me right now. What are the stressors? What can I do to enhance or improve my life, right? What
Right.
stress should I take off? What can I change? What can I prioritize? I'm going to definitely do that on the plane because I haven't done
Awesome.
self-check-in in a while.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Actually, the plane is a fantastic place to do that. It's one of my favorite. I like window seat because then I can face the window and cry if I have to cry. But then I can also just reflect. And I always try to take work with me on the plane. It never works. I'm never able to do the work. But I just sit there, reflect and relax and think, dream. So I'm glad you're going to be doing that. I think it's a great way to not be able to do the other things and just sit there because you can't get out.
Yeah, I'm definitely, because I usually do work on the plane. That's what I'll grade, I'll write, but I'm just going to take care of myself, at least for one of these flights coming up.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
that's my homework assignment for me. So what's your homework assignment? We've had this amazing conversation, and it's important for all of us to take something away from everything, always learning in coffee and an interview. That's the whole idea, a cup of coffee or tea and a great learning experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Esther, do you have any final words, comments, anything I didn't ask you that you might want to share as we close up the interview today?
I think I might have touched base on all the things that I was thinking of. Maybe I'll just quickly summarize. I think the biggest take home for me, even as I talk about this, is that it's important for us to be observers of our bodies. Observers of our moods, observers of the changes that are going on in our lives. And so that we can manage the stressful experiences, the seasons of life we are in a much better way. We really do not need to deplete emotional, mental, physical, motivational energy. We don't need to do that before we try to replenish it, because typically it's harder. It takes, I don't know about you all, but I realized that as I get older, it takes a lot more time to recover from long periods of long stressful periods. And I think it's just part of our natural body, but we don't need to get there. Let's catch them early and be intentional, put in some levels of discipline in our lives to make sure that we are not depleted. I also really would like to invite people to consider seeking help. Sometimes the professional help is necessary, and there are times where you don't have anyone to talk to. Just going to talk to, it could be a coach, it could be a therapist, or the various types, could be a way to help you identify. Some people just have no clue, and it's okay. But through that, you might be able to recognize the areas you need to work on. And that support, that external support, can keep like gingering you, especially if you have to go back repeatedly, if you have that. It really helps some people. So consider doing that as well. So those are some of the things I'd like to say. And let's take care of ourselves. Let's not outsource it to other people.
Yes. Yes, take care of ourselves. Thank you so much for the advice and for this wonderful conversation on burnout. I definitely learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners have learned a lot from this episode. So thank you so much. To our listeners who are here, know that the information from this session, contact information, websites, all of that will be in the description section of this episode. But also we have this wonderful webinar, an on-demand webinar that's free. Esther did a whole webinar on burnout. And if you want to learn more and see more about her suggestions, advice, resources, definitions, all of that, the link to that free webinar will be in the description as well. You just need to register and it'll automatically open up for you to view. So definitely, if you want to get more advice on burnout, I suggest you check out that wonderful webinar that we did earlier this year. You will definitely learn a lot more between this episode and that webinar. And Esther, thank you so much for
Thank you for having me. This was delightful.
It was a wonderful conversation. Where were you 20 years ago?
I probably was being bent out then too, and couldn't figure out what was going on with me. But thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a guest on Coffee and Interview. It's been a wonderful conversation, a wonderful experience. And thank you all of you for joining it once again, Coffee and Interview. It has been a pleasure. Have a wonderful day.